In Harry Potter and the Chamber of Bullshit Writing, Fawkes the Phoenix comes to the rescue of Scarface by dropping off the school's housing administrator, which conveniently revealed in that moment also happens to be the school's armory. Yet, despite no prior knowledge of this or instruction from the Talking Hat himself, Harry Plot Armor somehow still understands to reach into the sentient garment to retrieve a sword, despite no mention of the use of any medieval weaponry anywhere within this modern setting up until this exact point at the end of the second book, in what can only be described as the world's most contrived act of grabbing something sharp and pointy with which to defend yourself in literary history. I think most of us doing that series of "A Wizard Did It" said something along the lines of, "That's bullshit. She's clearly making stuff up now." Well, of course she's making stuff up. It's called fantasy. But that's not exactly what we mean by that sentiment. Alright, Dawa. If it's your second time here, subscribe. Fantasy is not real, but when done well, it does create a semblance of reality which allows us to become immersed into its lore. A twist is an event that causes our perception of that lore to change. If done well, it feels like a revelation. Our perception has changed because we've gained a deeper understanding of that lore. Done badly, and it feels like our perception has changed because the lore itself has changed, which destroys the semblance of reality and our immersion with it. Therefore, foreshadowing is a very powerful tool because it makes use of clues that sit on the edge of the observer's consciousness and brings them all together to reinforce a twist, making it feel more like it's always been this way, we just didn't realize it until now. Inevitably, trying to do this in a medium such as tabletop RPGs where we don't have autonomy over the protagonists is a tremendously tedious tightrope task of trying to drop clues that stand out just enough to get remembered later, but not enough to encourage pursuing in the moment, or worse still, giving away the plot's twist prematurely. There is an easy way of doing this, however. Would you like to know how? Okay, but first, we need to know a little bit more precisely how foreshadowing works. Foreshadowing exploits the psychology of pattern recognition in humans to make twists feel more real by relating it to existing knowledge. Pattern recognition is the trait of being able to match information from stimulus with information from memory. People are so sensitive to this, we can even perceive order in entropy. In other words, people are so good at pattern recognition that we are terrible at pattern recognition. So if you use 2 points of foreshadowing to tie in your convenience, your players will likely find all 4 of them and be blown away by your amazing ability to plan so far ahead. Okay, but how do we pull this off without screwing things up? Easy. Stop trying to foreshadow in foresight. i.e., don't try to plan clues for twists 5 sessions ahead of time. Instead, just write twists related to the shit you've already done, ready to unfold in the next session when you at least have a chance of knowing what's going to happen. In other words, foreshadow in hindsight. What? The simplest solution is typically the right one. It has the same psychological effect. It's impossible for your players to tell the difference. Alright, fine, I'll do an example. So let's take Harry Potter again to see if we can come up with a hypothetical alternative ending to the whole saga in hindsight, drawing on the existing plot and some of its untied ends. In the climax of this story, Voldemort, the biggest of BBEGs in the entire universe, is carrying out his second campaign of conquest through open battle with his army of Death Eaters. In the original ending, this is eventually overcome almost exclusively by a school and the power of love. So here are some of the plot points and untied ends that I'm going to be making use of in my alternative ending. First of all, one of the most distinguishing characteristics of every dark wizard in this world is their distaste and ignorance of both muggles and their technology. This theme comes up an awful lot, yet doesn't seem to go anywhere. Secondly, in contrast, we've seen other wizards, particularly those at the Ministry, possess muggle technology that has been modified using magic to give it enhanced capabilities. Thirdly, it has been detailed that the head of the Ministry keeps an open dialogue with the UK Prime Minister, which in response to Voldemort's first attempt at dominion in the First Wizarding War could have easily led to open dialogue between the Muggle Defense Secretary and the Ministry's Department of Defense, giving them nearly 20 years to prepare. And lastly, the Death Eaters had pretty much disabled the entire Department of Magical Law Enforcement, at least what was at the Ministry. What if there was another branch of magical defense? One that didn't exist in the Ministry or even operate under its authority. One that the Death Eaters couldn't have possibly known about and would have likely willfully ignored even if they had, due to their pathological ignorance of muggles. I think you know what I'm going with this. A super secret branch of the British military with magic fucking guns! Would it have made a better ending? I don't know. I'm not about to write 4 chapters of an intellectual property I don't own just to find out. But it at least makes as much sense as the true ending did. Plus, there's a particular poetic justice to pure blood supremacy getting absolutely shredded by a muggle with a belt fed. So give it a go in your own campaign. Look at your existing plot and some of its untied ends and come up with a way of trying to tie it all together in the next session. It's much easier than writing from scratch, and it's certainly a lot easier than trying to plan clues ahead of time. And that's it, guys. Don't forget to feed the algorithm on your way out, and I'll see you in the next shit I publish. Cheers!